We're back with Team Rising. We've got Madeline and Will in the house today. So one of the things that Sagar and I have been talking about is coming into this debate, Kamala had, whatever you think of her, a very strong performance in the first debate. She was kind of the talk of everybody. She saw a rise in the polls that now has kind of dropped off, but she definitely got a bump out of that. So the bar was set incredibly high for her. On the other hand, Biden, basically, the bar was set so low that if he could just sort of complete his sentences and not fall asleep on the stage or go full cranky old man, people were like, oh, that was a great performance. And I think because those bars were set so low, that really impacted Madeline, the way that the takeaways that people had from this debate.
Right. His only really old man moment was the very end
when
he messed up
so funny.
the texting. But yeah,
he didn't know his own website.
3023. That's like a nightmare. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I saw somebody. I think it was Sam Cedar who tweeted, if Bernie made that mistake, his campaign would be over.
Right.
Like no one would cut him slack.
I think the main challenge that Biden is going to see over and over again is this re-adjudicating of the Obama administration. And I almost wonder if he wasn't in the running, would we even be having these revisionist talks about the Obama administration? I think the media is very happy to just like focus on Trump and not relitigate things. So he's going to have to struggle to balance that, right? Like, and someone called him out on it last night. I think it was Booker.
Cory Booker,
You can't claim Obama when it's convenient and then try to disavow him when it's not.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's such a tactical error on their part because President Obama is overwhelmingly if he ran today, he would win. His popularity
approval rating in the
his
Democratic Party.
popularity in the Democratic Party is 95%. Amongst African Americans, it's like at a level where you literally can't even describe it. And so to run against the entire Obama administration, which is what the whole stage was doing, I thought it was such a tactical error on their part.
We talked a little bit about this earlier. I agree. I don't think long term. I understand why they're being told by pollsters that you attack traditional politics, you attack the front runner, and that's what they're using to get them off kilter and to make a mistake. And maybe that'll work, and Joe will do that. But I think long term it's not good. There's a lot of other things you can say about your message, and without attacking Obama's record or Vice President Biden's record. And you see a couple times they wanted Julian Castro, who I know did a great job, I think, last night. I hope we talked about him. Sometimes they try to rise above it, but then they just get right back in the mud. And I think, again, a lot of voters know who Joe Biden is, and I don't know if it's going to necessarily work.
I don't know if it's all exactly attacking Obama, though, as it is their policies, all their Medicare for All is a replacement of Obama's signature policy, right? Obamacare. And so, I mean, it's not that they're not trying to just attack Obama, but
they're literally replacing.
They're literally wanting
somebody
people want something different.
The first
and
night,
they're not
somebody
admitting
said
that.
It used to be Republicans you want to repeal and replace, and now it's all the Democrats.
But
now, if you're Bernie Sanders, I think that's okay.
Right, and that was the point that I was going to make is these candidates last night felt small. They felt like they were just trying to get in digs at Biden's record, and you said this, and here's an op-ed, and let me get. Whereas you had candidates on the first night who there's an implicit critique, right, in Medicare for All that this didn't go far enough, but it's more about the forward-looking vision for the country than it is, let me ding you on this, let me ding you on that from the past. To me, that's the distinction.
Huge difference, and that's why I think a lot of people rightly said, even though they weren't on the same debate stage, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders won the two nights.
I think that's right.
Because they had a vision.
Totally
they had a vision for the country. They weren't getting in the mud.
Exactly.
I
said this earlier.
Different.
Bernie's already won the nomination. Wow.
Really? Really?
I feel very forceful about this. Bernie's already won the nomination. Every single I
don't know about that.
No, I'm saying even if he doesn't win, the fact that the entire party has moved to a place where everybody has to explain why they're not for Medicare for All, why they're not for breaking up the banks, why they're not for taking on the fossil fuel industry, Green New Deal. Every single one of his signature proposals is now the standard of the Democratic Party.
Basically, both nights could be summed up in the question, do you agree with Bernie on X?
Exactly.
Right? That was the whole framing of
That's the
both
greatest
nights of the
victory.
debate.
Somebody said this about Barry Goldwater, which is Barry Goldwater won they won the election. It just took him 16 years to do it. 1964 to 1980 when Ronald Reagan became president. I believe exactly the same true is Bernie. So Biden could become the eventual nominee. But this is the party of Bernie Sanders now. for better or for worse.
Well, he certainly moved it over to the left.
Right.
A lot of people have the main critique I've seen of both debates is that the moderators are only asking Republican talking points, and that's true to some degree. But also, that's the biggest question in the Democratic Party right now: is how far left are you?
Yeah.
What is this new standard? And last night, I think we saw that we had moderates begging progressives not to go as far left as they are, and progressives saying, "Why are you sticking to Republican talking points about moderation?"
Right. Well, and Will, that was something, watching Biden in particular, and the way that he made his case on immigration. I mean, he said you're going to let everybody in, and what about the people? I mean, it was right out of the Republican talking point playbook.
Yeah.
It occurred to me, oh my gosh, it is so obvious why we've been losing ground to Republicans, because we accept their framing on everything and say, well, let's just do a little bit different.
That was going to be my exact point, Crystal.
Yeah.
I think, and if Biden, that could be his downfall. If he doesn't get that point, because oftentimes as Democrats, we traditionally have started over. Let's concede and start over on the right.
Let's concede the point.
And then try to work it back and make it a little better. Whereas Republicans are like, no, we're just going to say what we want. They're death panels, and we're going to convince everyone that they're death panels. And I think that's the beauty of Bernie is, Medicare for all is it's a human right to have health care, and that's where we start. And
it's unequivocal.
And,
there's no nuance.
And so I think that's where these moderates, why they look so out of place. And I think Joe, if he, the vice president, if he doesn't catch on, that could be something that really hurts him.
But Will, what would potentially knock African American voters who strongly support the vice president, in part largely because of his role as the vice president, to Barack Obama? What do you see potentially knocking them off in their support?
You could see Senator Harris started with the busing, the segregationists. I don't think that's going to work.
I don't think so either.
It didn't work.
The criminal justice, she certainly doesn't have clean hands on that. It's hard. Cory Booker does. So I think you have to watch him too.
What about
his ascendance could knock Joe Biden?
I thought though, Madeline, that Biden's his attempted knockout on Cory about his own record as Newark mayor. It's not wrong, right? So I think tactically it was bad, as in he should have just risen above it and be like, yeah, I moved on, whatever, Cory, you're a friend.
Some of us
but he was like, well, you were Newark mayor, stop and frisk and all that. I mean, that's a kind of a fair point, right?
I think Booker could be pressed a lot more on his track record in New Jersey, right? The deals that he made with Facebook, and if he's going to try to come out against tech,
where do you think all this money is coming from? This guy is like Wall Street's candidate in the race.
I thought that Buttigieg is problematic.
He's taking Wall Street money for a decade rather than Buttigieg, who just started taking it, right?
Booker's strategy last night to me was hilarious, right? He had this Boy Scout idea of why we need to be unified,
Radical
we need to come together. And I just wanted to say, sir, this is a Democratic debate. You are trying to fight for the Democratic nomination. We're not trying to tear the party apart. We're just trying to find out who the best nominee is. And he couldn't get away from
I'll be curious to see what the polls say after, because he was the only one on there that kind of tried to have a come together unity vision. Yeah. But he still got in a couple slides. He had the Kool-Aid line, but he did it in a happy way and not like an angry way. So I'm curious to see how that plays.
We spoke with Matt Taibbi after the last debate. He said that people were very upset in Iowa on the ground about the sniping. And so I expect that not much will change, that Biden's support will stay the same. Kamala may go down slightly. I think Bernie and Warren will either go up or remain where they are.
Gaining a little from Kamala's continued slide, because they appeal to a similar coalition.
I think Kamala and many of the others on the stage, and a lot of the sniping, like the Delaney's and all that, they represent exactly what the people on the ground do not want.
Yeah.
And so when they look at Biden, they're like, these people are doing him wrong, because they're constantly sniping at his record and all this, and all he wants to do is take us back to 2012, which is what a lot of those people want.
Well, Elizabeth Warren, I think, framed the two nights well when she had that. I think it was against Delaney. She said, why are you running for president if you talk about what you can't do and what you don't want to have happen?
That was the line. I mean, that was a great line. And it was true, too. And I want to hear you guys' poll predictions. I agree with Sagar. I don't think a lot changes. In relationship to a previous conversation about some of the non-mainstream candidates, I could see a Tulsi, a Marianne, and Andrew Yang getting a little bit of juice from their performances, because clearly they piqued people's interest. Maybe enough. Yang is already on that next debate stage. Maybe enough to get Marianne and Tulsi on there as well, which would be very interesting. That was another thing Taibbi told us, is that Marianne Williamson, and he wrote about this, gets great crowds, standing ovations. People really respond to her out on the trail.
I think Tulsi could get a bump too. She was the most Googled after the first debate, and then made her presence known in this one too. I think
She was the most Googled after this one as well.
Oh, I thought it was. Oh, Marianne was.
Marianne was night one, and Tulsi was night two.
Right.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think Warren might take a bump above Kamala. You know,
They dropped from the same
They were
pool.
both tied in after the first debate. So
I think you see Joe Biden's support stay steady. I think he did what he needed to do. He didn't fall down.
Agreed.
He had energy. That's what people wanted to see.
Yeah.
And I think you might see Senator Harris drop a little bit, Warren go up a little bit. I think Julian Castro is going to come up a little bit. I think Booker might come up a little bit. I know we haven't talked a lot about them, but I think they both did pretty well.
Yeah,
So
wow.
and Williamson and Yang, I hope they make the
Yeah,
stage because I think they're going to interject some.
Yang is there already. I
Yang
hope
is-
Williamson does too.
Me too. Thanks,
Ladies
guys.
and- Thanks, guys.
Good to be
Appreciate
with
it.
Tomorrow on Rising, The Intercept's Jim Risen will join us to talk about Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's complex journey from Tea Party congressman to head of State Department.
And friend of the show, Dr. Joe Pesci will be here. He'll once again take us to the literal stars. Also, Editor-in-Chief Bob Cusack will give us a debrief of the whole week. A lot to dig into from this week. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Hill TV Live. And remember to subscribe to the Hill's YouTube channel. Click the bell so you get notified when we post new content. You don't want to miss a minute of this show, and you know it. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.